I was born in Toronto, Ontario, and but I have lived in many places in Canada because my husband was in the military, so we've lived everywhere from Vancouver to the East Coast and spent a lot of time in the North. I was about 6 when I used to play with the play with the mats. Well, it's my mother and her sisters, or my mother's family in the Toronto area. They were from Markham, Unionville, which is just a short distance out, and they were on the farm. And all my mother was a tailor, and her sisters were expert seamstresses and embroiderers, quilters. They did all the handwork, and I can remember like going home with her to her father's, my grandfather's farm, and hooking mats was something that you needed to do because they were very utilitarian, the same as the quilts were, because you needed them for the floor. And there was always a mat on a frame, a very primitive pieced together, clamped together, 4 pieces of wood with the mat on it by the wood stove. And in the evening, that's what just about everybody would do, even the boys, the young boys, the girls, and of course the mother, she'd work a bit on the mat. Well, I think you learn to reuse because you can't run to the store. So if you do have a piece of fabric that you could possibly do anything else with, you don't throw it away. I saw them using everything from old woolen underwear that they would try and dye with turmeric, perhaps, to get the yellows or whatever, and then the men's work pants, cotton, wool, whatever was available. Whatever wasn't good enough to go into a quilt went into a mat. Out on my walks with the dog, I kept coming across these pieces of found metal, and I'd look at it and I think, well, I don't know if I can do something. And by found metal, I mean things as big as a heat shield off a car, which is quite huge. So I'm quite a sight sometimes, going down the road with the dog in one hand and the piece of whatever in the other. And I found one that was, it looked like a very open, blooming peony. And I thought, well, that would be neat. You could hook some pieces and put them down in that and make a flower out of it, And so I did that for a while. I would work with the metal, and then I went on to sculptured pieces. There was an art show in Verchois that they'd put a call out for artists to take part in, and I made a raven out of chicken wire, and then I hooked into the chicken wire and made a beak out of leather, and so it just keeps evolving. One of the things that I've really worked very hard at is to have rug hooking accepted as an art medium, and that's a little difficult sometimes because it's seen as a lady's craft, or to get it to cross over into the art world. There's no question in my mind it's art, and there's no question in all my friends and my acquaintances' minds that it's art. And just to subtly, to progress towards this, I also, in another life or in another chapter, I am a watercolorist. I was always invited to the art shows because of my watercolors. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to start putting in pieces of rug hooking. And for instance, the Moncton Gallery in downtown Moncton, they put out a call for a juried show every year. And I've been successful the last 3 years in getting a piece. We're beginning to get the mindset change that rug hooking is art, not craft. I think the past does influence the present, or the present, because we get ideas. It influences me because I look at the old mats and I see the creativity or the ideas and the designs and that they used, and there's always ways of bringing that forward in your own way. Michelle Miccarelli is an artist, rug hooker who lives in the United States, comes to Canada and does workshops. I did a very short workshop with her 2 days last summer. I started this piece. It was going to be an Art Deco piece. And I didn't do very much on it. Then I had the opportunity this May to go back with Michelle for a full week in Halifax. And what it has evolved into, you can see all the lines. This is what I'm talking about when I say that what I start with is not what I end with. So I kept thinking, Michelle's class was water, water everywhere. And I wanted to finish this with Michelle, and yet it didn't really fit her class. And I'm not saying that I made it to fit her class, but I got thinking, water, water everywhere. I'm an Aquarius. What am I doing? This is what I want to do. So we started, this all changed. So this developed into this. This is the Aquarius constellation. The little round spots that I've put in. And then the way it's going to be finished is this, as you can see, you've got sort of orbit lines. So this is all going to be orbit lines, and the colors are going to, it's going to be quite dark to hit this light, for the contrast, but this is going to evolve up. These colors are going to evolve. And and this is the crochet line, like I was telling you about, you can see that if you fold that back, that is what you're going to see when it's on the wall. And I'm on my way now with this. I have to, this piece I can't take to a hook-in. I can't take to my friend's house to work on because I have to concentrate. The older mats tell the story, I think, of the women who made them. You can see their ingenuity. You can see their thriftiness, or their making things do, and which they had to do, which isn't negative at all. It's very positive. I would say there are no rules. And I know that we get very caught up in that, like, use a certain size, use a whatever. Use a certain size of, or one size of strip is better than the other. This hook is better than the other. Try them all, and just go for it, I guess. And and at least I know that there are many that are very more comfortable with patterns, and there are beautiful patterns. The patterns are beautiful, and the people that are creating them, the ladies or the men that are creating them, they're marvelous. They're lovely. But just try one without a pattern. Just try something, even if it's sit and do hit and miss. Like, pick up your bag of strips and play.